There you go.
Oh, did you put it on the dyno?
Yeah, I just did a dyno chart. What do you think?
Does that say is that 1,000 horsepower?
There you go. Welcome to the shop. I'm Jared, and this is Wrench Every Day. Today we're back at Site B, where we're going to do our follow-up to the tech tips of what to do to get your car ready for a dyno. As I kind of teased a little bit, I was going to go into some details about how you can cheat those numbers to make them whatever you want to be, and why a performance shop might do that. The car we're going to use as our example test mule today is my 1991 Toyota Supra Twin Turbo R. This is the car that you're going to see me race Tavarish and his SC300 with. It's a 1JZ Toyota engine equipped 2.5 liter twin turbo. It's a really cool car that's imported from Japan, and unfortunately it's looking a little dirty. It spends a lot of time outside, and that's a good time to introduce today's sponsor, Avalon King. We've done a lot with them and the ceramic coating, but you've seen us clean cars before. We're not going to clean and coat the Supra today, but I did coat the dyno with it. So we're going to use the power of our time machine. Dwayne's going to take us back to where I coat the bed of the dyno with the Armor Shield 9 ceramic coating kit. The dyno is subject to a lot of glues and other road debris coming off the tires. So what we're going to do here is coat it and see if it's going to make future maintenance of the dyno much easier. After cleaning and prepping the surface, you're able to easily apply the ceramic coating using the included applicator pad and cloths. A couple drops and a quick wipe, let it dry and wipe it off. Since it has been some time, I'm kind of curious to see just a dry rag how well this dyno wipes clean with nothing but the rag, and I'll tell you what, that's pretty easy. But let's for comparison, the untreated side. It's coming clean, but honestly it is taking a lot more wiping effort, and the stain persisted. So really old powder coat, it did a pretty good job of protecting it. And if you would like to go ahead and get your own DIY Armor Shield 9 ceramic coating kit, check out the link in the description below where you can save $25 on your own kit. Alright, so why would a company, a tuning company, a parts manufacturer, try to lie about the power your car is going to make when you bring it to them for service, upgrades, or when you buy their part? Quite honestly, the biggest reason you're going to see some manipulated power numbers is they simply overpromised. You called someone up, you're trying to find a company to do the modifications for you because you didn't want to do them yourself, and you're promised a too good to be true number. You bring your car to them, they do the mods, and it's not quite meeting expectation, but you're expecting to have that dyno chart that shows, you know, however much power. You know, if realistically the car should make 400 horsepower and they're promising you 480, it's not so outlandish that you don't think it's possible when you talk to another competitor, but it is outside the realm of possibility. There are some things you can do to cheat and make the dyno appear to demonstrate that bigger power number. Now, I don't want to say that all performance shops are going to be producing artificial dyno charts. There are lots of very well-known tuners and companies you'll find out there, but kind of a good rule of thumb is if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. They're going to inflate their numbers, charge less, get you in, and when you're not performing as advertised, you don't really have much recourse to go on. You're out that money and unfortunately that horsepower. Now, to fully understand how exactly a company may cheat a dyno chart and produce those fake numbers, we need to understand how the dyno works. So we're going to take a couple minutes and walk around and explain exactly what the giant drums and all the little sensors attached to it do in order to produce a power number. Also, some of you have been curious where Pura has been in the past couple of videos. When we're operating the dyno, it's really not safe for her to be in the shop, so she stays at home. So to keep all of you happy, here's a little clip of her that has absolutely nothing to do with the video, but it's going to keep all the Pura fans happy. So looking at the dyno here, these are what are called chassis dynos, meaning that they measure power through the wheels and the chassis of the car. The primary feature of them is a large or sometimes small drum. We now have an all-wheel drive dyno we'll go look at too. This has two large drums linked in the center that weighs, if I remember correctly, about 1,600 pounds. This side is 800 pounds. There's a coupler in the middle. Then you have 600 pounds. I think it's 1,400, 800 and 600. Some amount of weight. And it is attached with these giant, what are called pillow bearings. The way you're able to derive a horsepower reading from this equipment is measuring the rate that it is accelerated, the speed. The way that you use speed, which is measured with these tone rings and sensors here, is it's a physics calculation. We know how much weight we're turning and spinning up. We know how quickly it's being turned. So you're then able to calculate torque and horsepower from those numbers. That is a math thing. The way you're able to cheat is by changing some of the formulas. Either we can tell it that it weighs more, or in the case of a computer system that uses weather correcting formulas, we can tweak and adjust what the weather corrections are. So you see this setup, that giant brake rotor there is the eddy brake assembly. That is what provides the active load while you're tuning that we talked about in the previous video for steady state tuning and simulated road. But not all dynos have that. Some of them are just very heavy drums with speed sensors that, again, calculate a physics formula to come up with that horsepower and torque number. And then each dyno is going to have a computer cabinet and control tower. This is a sensor for your wideband air-fuel ratio. This changes your RPM pickups, whether you're going to use rolling speed or an inductive pickup setup, as well as just some other sensors that are hung up along the side. You also have a boost pressure vacuum hose, so when you're running turbocharged car, you can monitor boost if you want in your full data acquisition. You also have setups like this. It's a little bit dark in this corner. This is just getting set up. This is a Mustang all-wheel drive dyno setup. So you have a smaller roller and it sits a lot closer to the ground. And the way they work is you have one eddy brake linked to a roller, and then these two rollers are linked via that large belt. So they turn. And then underneath this section of the dyno, there's another coupler that will link and lock all of these front rollers to the rear roller via belt. And again, these turn together to simulate a road. This whole process, even though it looks so much more complicated than the setup over there, operates on the exact same principle. We know how much these drums weigh, we have speed sensors connected to them, and we're able to calculate how fast they start turning. So when it comes time for all of those physics calculations, the information, the computer only knows the information you give it. So if you lie to it, it's going to do the most accurate calculations that it can, but there's the old adage of garbage in, garbage out. So that's another quick way that you could potentially cheat and fudge some numbers. And you may be wondering why I've decided to use the Supra as the test mule for these polls. Well, we have the race coming up with Tavarsh. I'm really curious about how much power the effectively stock twin turbo R Supra is going to make. Plus, it's going to be kind of fun to fudge those numbers a little bit and maybe throw some concern or doubt towards Tavarsh. We're going to tweak the numbers and make it make absolutely ludicrous horsepower and see what we come up with. So, once again, we're going to get this car up, strapped, and start making some noise, because I'm sure you guys are tired of me talking. I'm tired of talking, and would kind of like to make some horsepower pulls. Okay, so first we want to get our baseline power numbers, no funny business. One thing I am a little worried about is this car still has its originally equipped speed limiter. In Japan, they're only able to go to a certain speed before hitting speed cut, so we may not get to do our pulls in the 1-to-1 gear ratio, but we'll find out real quick. So we're gonna hit go, take our base sampling, and then we'll go through some of the ways that power numbers can get fudged. So we ended up hitting that speed limiter like I was a little bit worried might happen. So we're gonna have to do our third gear pull, which is gonna keep the total speed down, but what that's gonna end up relating is a potentially slightly higher torque number. But for our overall purposes of cheating on a dyno, that's not a big problem. Even with the cutout, it is claiming 321.8 and 321 torque, which seems a little bit odd. Most likely that was from the quick boost cut, speed limiter cut, and then came back onto power. It indicates a sudden surge, so it can read that as an actual power increase. So we're gonna go through, recalibrate for third gear, and try again. And boost cut. So I'm going to turn boost down a little bit, and it looks like I'm going to need a new speedometer cable soon, the way it's jumping around at that higher speed. All right, we got our flicker back. We'll actually be able to use that baseline run where we're going to go into start cheating next. With the weather corrected values, we're coming up with 295 horsepower, 288 foot-pounds of torque, which is a little bit high. So realistically about 280 horsepower, which for a 1JZ is right on point. So I'm not too worried about those power numbers. They come on and it looks just like it should. Again, we hit boost cut where it cuts power and then it ramps real quick back. So I'm going to turn the boost controller down a little bit, and then I'm going to show you a few dirty secrets of how to make a much bigger dyno chart. As we're talking about, all of your power numbers come through a physics calculation. Oh, and there we go, 1,800 pounds. I was remembering wrong, 1,200 and 600. That's the weight of the drums. But you can come in here and tell it that that drum weighs 2,400 pounds, and that's going to create a higher horsepower reading as well. But the easiest way that you can potentially fudge a number, and what you're going to see most common in a Mustang dyno, it's adjusting weather station parameters. On a dyno jet, what they'll do is you can put a hot air gun, because their weather station lives down in the tower, and just blow a lot of hot air onto it. So right now you see a correction factor of 1. If we have analog inputs, it's going to work off of the current weather station parameters, and it's automatically correcting it for temperature, pressure, and humidity. But if we come in and tell it to use our own values, let's just say we are way up in the mountains. So now we're getting a correction factor of 1.8. That means 1.8 times our pressure. So if we come back, and again, we can fudge it. I don't know how low it's going to let us go. Let's see, can we get down to 7? So now we're at 2.5 times. What if we do 6? We're still going 3 times our horsepower. We'll do a 5. There we go. Okay, we can't go below 5. What about 4.5? Nope. All right, so 5 is our lowest. So we're just going to tell it that our local pressure here is only 5 psi, when it should be roughly 1 bar, that 14.2. But when we do our power run, it's going to produce a much larger number. So let's go see what we can do with that one little upgrade to the Supra. All right, test started. Right under 1 bar, which is the boost cut for this car. we'll let it come down and oh, well that's not right. It says we made 6,500 horsepower. I think I maybe went a little too extreme on my cheating numbers. Okay, I figured out the problem. It lost sampling for a second and detected insane RPM. So we're right where I was hoping to be, which is just under 1,000. So I'm going to do a couple polls, try to get a nice clean one, and then I think I'm going to give Tavarsh a call and see what he thinks. Alright, that next run behaved perfectly. So you can see a realistic horsepower and torque number. I had to turn the boost down so we didn't hit boost cut now that it's a little bit colder. So 272 horsepower, 272 torque. Again, for 1JZ, I'm pretty happy with it. But because of our fudge numbers, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to call Tavarsh with. So if we hit that onto the chart, we will unload that second test, which wasn't right, and rescale to 1,050. You can see that looks pretty impressive, huh? That is one stout 1JZ. Now, if you've got a tuning shop that is trying to fudge the power numbers a little bit for you, obviously it is not going to be that extreme, but it is very easy to manipulate those numbers to register a little bit more horsepower. So what do you need to do to kind of defend yourself against that? One, watch online for the reputation of the tuner. There's a lot of people who've most likely gone to them before and are going to be able to provide good feedback. If it's someone that's brand new to the platform that you're working with, or a relatively new tuner period, and their numbers are too good to be true, there may be some manipulation going. So the next best way to confirm power numbers is drag racing, quarter mile time, or half mile acceleration. Again, that goes back to a physics calculation. We know how much your car weighs, and we know the distance it covered and in what time. It takes a certain amount of power to do that. So you can then take all of those numbers, calculate, and reverse back to a horsepower number to see how close and how genuine those power numbers are. Now, I'm not going to lie. Having a 1JZ with 1,000 horsepower dyno chart, it's impressive to look at, but can you trust it? Most likely not. So the next step, again, is just a little bit of fun. I'm going to wait. I know Tavarsh is putting the baby down to sleep. As soon as his daughter is sleeping, we're going to give him a video call, show him the car on the dyno, and then show him the power chart and see what he's thinking. My guess is he might panic, think something crazy has happened, and order too much for the SC300, and it's not going to get done in time for our currently unscheduled 1JZ shootout. But I mean, it'll happen eventually, and I'm sure, since my car's ready to go right now, I've got a fair advantage of just having a running car. What's going on?
What's up?
Looks like I just woke you up.
No, I've been up.
Enjoying vacation, though.
Not my waking up face. It's not my waking up robe.
So, you see what's behind me, right?
Yeah, it's that's your Supra, right? 1JZ.
Yeah.
Basically stock.
It was stock. I figured you were gonna cheat with your SC300, right? So,
I mean, not really, but yeah.
Yeah, of course you are. I mean, you figured I had the racing transmission, so I had to do a few more things. Let's switch cameras. There you go.
Oh, did you put it on the dyno?
Yeah, just did a dyno chart. What do you think?
Jared, I'm gonna have to call shenanigans on this. Does that say is that 1,000 horsepower.
There you go.
Oh, okay. So you got a 1,010 horsepower
Yep.
off of a stock 1JZ with twin turbos.
I'm not going to show you what's in there
With
anymore.
an 800 shot of nitrous.
We're not going to go under the hood. So
Okay.
you need to plan accordingly for your 1JZ now.
Okay.
That-
No,
so-
seriously, what'd you do though?
Well, if I'm being honest, we told it that we were basically on Mount Everest. So
Oh, okay.
So-
30,000 feet in the sky.
so if
the dyno.
yeah, if we do a couple buttons, I'll show you what it really did. But I liked your reaction.
Somehow, I think the race is going to be a little bit closer than what we see here, than what the dyno says.
Maybe we'll see. All right, go back to enjoying your vacation.
All right, see ya.
See ya. Now that we're all done messing with Tavarish there, I hope you guys enjoyed a short glimpse into sometimes what might happen in the performance world, some of the dirty laundry of not always honest numbers, and hopefully you learned a little bit about how a dyno works, and I'm excited to see exactly how much power the 1J and the old twin turbo R is making. It's exactly what I was expecting, but I do have some upgrades planned for it that aren't going to be easy to spot, and they're not going to make 1,000 horsepower, but it's going to be more than enough to take care of that SC300. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us. I'm Jared, reminding you to always make questionable choices, and go ahead and trust, but verify. See ya.